You're watching Backstage on Pack 14.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, James.
Hello, Ilyana.
I'm Ilyana Kadushin,
And I'm James Harrell.
and we are musician, artist, educators. We do a lot of different things, co-host a podcast, run the nonprofit Stories Love Music, create music for all different mediums. But today we're going to just focus in on music, what it means to us, what the experience of music making, why it's so meaningful for us. And I guess I would launch in and say that even though my background was in acting and performing, there was always something that when I sang a song or was enveloped by music and was singing it, something happened to me inside that was undeniable and was very different from other types of performing when I was acting, be it in theater or film. I was more real and it felt more truthful when I was in music. And I learned really quickly that it was I was more vulnerable and it was accessing something more truthful in me than almost anything, which is, I think, why I wanted to dive, so much into it.
For me, my music start was when I was 9 years old. My parents bought a piano, and so I started playing. I was becoming classically trained, and then I grew tired of that. So as long as I kept playing, it was totally cool with my parents. Age 14, my dad brought home this guitar for me because I was trying to teach myself on a 12 string. And I figured it was easier to bring it to the beach and meet girls with that. So I picked up with the guitar. And there was a life before you, Ilyana.
No way.
And when I moved to New York from San Diego, California in 1991. And I didn't know what I wanted to do musically. And then I listened to a Prince album and I was like, I want to produce. I want to arrange, I want to produce. And that's where it sort of took off. And in 99, the two of us came together in a studio and
Invited by a drummer
drummer
from Mexico who knew us both, who said, we're going to just get a group of musicians
together. So we pretty much, our first album, we pretty much wrote within the first 3 months of meeting. It took like another 5 years to produce it because I was being perfectionistic about it. And then from there, we've been scoring for film, advertising, we've done corporate media, voiceover work, sound design. I also audio engineer. And but it's a daily part of my life. I play every day. I practice piano. I practice guitar. It's what keeps me sane in this world.
Well, so maybe in a way, like what I was speaking about in the beginning, is that it's something, your relationship to music is different than your relationship to almost anything. And that when we did come together and start to create music, it felt very organic. There's a lot of things that we try to do with people in the world, and it can feel like swimming up against a stream or feeling like a resistance. But the minute James and I met and started creating music and started exploring what was our creative process, lyrics and melody and harmony and what instruments, the process was very organic. And I think when something feels effortless, that's when you start to connect with it even more. And we've been very fortunate to have such a variety of uses in our music. And one of the most powerful things in the last couple years is that when we started, our music was about creativity and fun and entertaining people, which is all great. We love be a part of elevating a story, be it in a film or TV or live, and we love entertaining people. Let's face it, today people need to feel an escape or go on a journey with music and a story. But a few years ago, we realized that music had this power that was beyond entertainment, that it was a tool, educational tool, but also a transformational tool. And that's what led us to, Hurricane Sandy had decimated. Yeah.
All right, I'll jump in on here. We're married, by the way.
Stories. I was going to talk about the hurricane.
Sure. So in the wake of Hurricane Sandy, we were at a friend's house having dinner, and they got a phone call, and they said, "Can you come down to the Armory in Park Slope, Brooklyn?" So the Armory was the YMCA. Everyone who was displaced from the Far Rockaways on Long Island was set up there. So we went to volunteer to see what we could do. Bring clothing, sleep masks because the lights were always on. And then we were asked to come in. They found out we were musicians, asked other musicians to come in and entertain everyone who had been sleeping there for weeks. And we noticed it was a lot of elderly, but we noticed there was a lot of mental illness with the elderly there. And that's when we started doing outreach in the Alzheimer's and dementia community. So we wanted to do something to give back was the biggest thing, to be part of the community. So we were doing music and storytelling, and that turned into something. And back to you, Ilyana.
We're doing a newscast now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that whole realization that, to me, it all falls under the umbrella of creative engagement. We were creatively engaged with each other, but then we realized that if we turned that creative engagement out into the community, that had a power to do something. So when we saw that there was a loneliness and a struggle, and there would be in this growing aging population in the United States, we realized there's something to this. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but let's turn this out. And that led us to create what is now Stories Love Music, a 501c3. And it brings creative engagement programs to the caregivers, to a population that are really burnt out and stressed. I think there's 40 million plus caregivers in the United States. And in these workshops that we can bring, we use storytelling and music, which, let's face it, are the two earliest spiritual traditions in this country. When I talked earlier about feeling vulnerable, but music making you feel connected and it connecting to your soul and your spirit, that we saw, oh, this is something that could help alleviate burnout, that could be a part of making caregivers feel like they had some tools when they were working with a senior who was losing their memory.
Yeah, and we actually saw the results of it. I mean, we went to centers where there were people that hadn't talked for months and started singing along with us and watching the jaws drop on the caregivers and the family members. And you know, in that moment, it was like, wow, it's that powerful. You know, it's frequency, it's vibration, it's a group of people coming together singing songs. We were doing traditional songs and hits from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, on piano and ukulele, and playing ragtime music and boogie woogie. We would get them up and dancing.
And it was cool because for so long we've focused on original music. I mean, James and I, because we're writing for projects, we focused on just songwriting and writing our own original music. But I think going through the American songbook and music from other eras, we had a real appreciation for well-written songs by composers in other eras, and just using them and seeing how they impacted the brain of somebody who felt very alone and very isolated. But very quickly, as artists, educators, and activists, like when we asked ourselves, how can we really affect change here? We realized that we're just a couple of artists. We can't possibly help the entire elder population. We need to bring music to a group that may not expect this, which is the caregiver. So this is Stories Love Music, and doing that has been this great example to us that, like, we still love to entertain people with music, and we love to do live shows, and we love to create music for TV, but it's incredible to see the power of music and story for healing, for education, to make just people feel like they belong. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me
bum, bum.
So that's an example of a song that we would play where, let's say, a husband was visiting his wife in the session, and normally they would have no physical or emotional or verbal connection. And when we would sing this song, they would grab hands and even sometimes get up and be inspired to dance together or sing together. So there would be this beautiful romantic connection between a husband and wife, which could have been missing for months. So it took that feeling of loneliness and just with a song brought about these great feelings of love.
Let's do another one. That made me cry.
Yeah, good.
This is considered our theme song. We start every Stories Love music session when we're working with both the caregivers and the seniors. Not always easy to do, but this is really good to try for.
You've got to accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You've got to spread joy up to the maximum and bring the gloom down to the minimum and have faith or pandemonium's liable to walk upon the scene. Yeah.
And chances are, 9 times out of 10, the mood would shift. If we walked in and things felt dark or heavy, or people were in an angry mood because they were confused or their bodies were in pain, by the end of that song, and it's a pretty short song, by the end of that song, it would be a mood elevator. So it's a great example of music as mood elevation. It's not curing a disease, but it's changing the mood and allowing people to be more open and available to be in the moment.
Yeah, and just even the family members coming in, the appreciation that they had because their loved one was just different, even though they might be down, they would kind of perk up a little bit, and we would be playing but looking out into the group and seeing, the love there, and it was really great. And the caregivers as well, they're spectacular people.
Big-hearted.
They really go through a lot, and we need to take care of these people because they're taking care of us at the end of the day. And so our coming in there and having fun, they would join in with the singing. They would start dancing. And it was great just to step off the elevator and have people clapping and, yay, James and Ilyana are here. And it's like, okay, here we are.
And the program itself that we give to caregivers is called The Joy of Creative Engagement. And it's a little bit different than when we were working with the senior population during our fieldwork and research. With the caregivers, it's about asking them to remember their origin story of what music meant to them. Caregivers are generally from many cultures and countries. Generally, people that do caregiving as a job come from many different countries, not just the United States, and they bring a unique culture and origin story to music. So in our workshops with them, they talk about music from their culture, and they even share some music with their culture. And when they remember, music means something to me, and when they realize that, then they're going to be more likely to use it with the senior that they take care of. And we help them bridge that understanding and say, hey, listen, if music means something to you, imagine how much it will mean to the person that you're working with. And you could use that as a bridge to understanding each other. And that's what music and storytelling is for everybody, not just this population.
Music's universal. We all have a heartbeat. We have a rhythm already pumping within us. So we can communicate with anyone. We might not speak the same language, but we can sing and play for one another, and then we can cook for one another. So.
Food is good.
So, I don't know if we mentioned, but we're transplants. We're come-heres from New York, metropolitan New York. And we've been down here since May. We love it, getting involved in the community. We've been going out to Berlin and playing at Sisters. And this is one of the songs that we've been performing. It's called The Joy of Life. And it was inspired by one of our godsons when he was a little kid. And I just was amazed at like the amount of energy he had and bouncing around. And I'd written the entire song, but I didn't have the chorus. And I played it for Ilyana, and she said, well, his first word was okay. And then I went from there, and here we are. You flipped the clouds right over, took the angels by their wings,
Rode them off into the sun.
you found the light that held your strength inside, and all the while
You know that you're the only one.
it's not by chance that you're with us here today.
The universe expanded, giving you the way
To say
okay.
the joy of life is here with you today. Okay,
Okay. The only thing you'll ever need to say.
okay.
La da da da, la da da, la da da da.
You'll stand your ground, wallowing, reaching out for something more,
And looking for somewhere to go.
spending your life in search of treasure buried deep within.
But what you've got's worth more than gold. It's not by chance that you're with us here today. The universe expanded, giving you the way
To say
okay. The joy of life is here with you today. Okay, okay. The only thing you'll ever need to say. Okay. To say. Okay.
and if
At first you don't, you will, okay. Don't let it get you down, it's still okay. You'll understand it all until okay.
you see that love comes back to you again each day.
Hey.
It's not by chance that you're with us here today.
The universe expanded, giving you the way
To say
okay. The joy of life is here with you today.
okay.
Okay.
The only thing
You'll ever need to say okay, okay. The joy of life is here with us today. Oh, The joy of life is here with us today.
Woo! And I got the lyrics right this time.
And when we sing together, we forgive each other for interrupting each other, right?
Yes. So,
But I mean, I think to your point of how our creative process works is generally somebody will come, whether it's James or myself, with some lyrics, or James with a melody, and a lot of times it'll be merging a lyric idea with a melody, and then really just letting it kind of have its own legs and live, and then it morphs a little bit, because sometimes we find it by playing out live at concerts. We'll play a song that's new out in a concert and we'll go, oh, okay, by playing it live in front of an audience we kind of have a sense now of what this song is meant to be, and then we'll record it. Or so our creative process is definitely a lot of has a lot of different layers to it. But our songs have been about love and being married and being a married couple that creates. Our songs have been about social commentary. What do we think about the world? Music is really a vehicle for all of that to get expressed, which is great, which is the other awesome thing about music.
I feel your weight and I'll carry you, carry you. I hear your thoughts and I'll think of you, think of you.
I think of you, you think of me. We only think about to think about.
It's pretty good, James.
Yeah, thanks.